I decided from the outset that marching band was not going to be a factor in my decision-making process. I knew it was something that I wanted, and if it was there, it was something that I would absolutely do. But I was considering a lot of schools that did not have marching bands, and I had gotten to the point senior year where I was okay with that. I wasn't extremely happy, but I was okay with it. That if the situation was right, and if the education was good, and there was no marching band, then that was all right. Just so happened that I fell in love with UVA's program, ended up coming here, and so marching band came back onto the forefront again. My first experience was in Old Cabell with Mr. Cook and Abby Hyder, and I remember it very distinctly, mostly because I showed up to band camp and they both remembered me and my dad and my sister. They remembered that I was going back home to Pittsburgh, and many fine details about me. It was pretty amazing. So I met them, and Dr. Pease actually likes to tell this story a lot. I guess I just showed up and said, hey, I'm going to be in the band, without any prior contact, and that kind of took them by surprise. But yeah, that was my first interaction. Abby gave obviously glowing reviews of her experience, and I knew it was something that I wanted to be involved in. It was definitely hard, and that was a good thing. I think the first year I thought it was hard, just with practices and game days and trying to manage that and work my group projects in around that. And then as leadership grew, it became harder and harder. But I kept feeling like, well, I did all right this year, and so maybe I can take another step. I was really, really blessed to have a bunch of BMEs that were also in the band, who I could work with on projects. We all teamed up and had an ideas group together so that we didn't have to have conflicting schedules with everyone and cause all sorts of problems. So that worked out very well. I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, there are many times where I can recall having to leave early, come late. One particular instance where we were picking the drum majors for my fourth year. We were going and getting Carissa and Kyle. And Jacob Barnes, who was in my ideas group, another BME trumpet player, he was continuously texting Mr. Cook asking him when they could have me back so that we could finish the report. And it wasn't until 1 or 2 in the morning, but people took it in stride, which was great. Yeah. So, but it was hard. It was a very interesting process because coming in, I was convinced that I wanted to do it. There was a drum major from my high school who had previously become the drum major at Penn State. We just heard all these glory tales of how much fun he had. And I knew it was something that I wanted to do. And then when it came time to apply for leadership, I actually didn't end up applying for it. I thought about it long and hard. I didn't feel like I was in the right place to do it. I didn't feel like I knew people enough. I didn't feel like I was in a place where I could very aptly hold that role. So I became section leader. And I think at that point, it really hit me that band was an organization that I had an incredible experience with, and that I felt like drum major at that point was a really good way for me to try to give back. And so, kind of left it up to the directors and the students that were voting to see what they thought, and they apparently thought that it was something that I could do. So it was really hard trying to decide third year, if I wanted to stay on, because saxes are a fantastic section. But I thought it would be good to open up all the options and see where they felt I would best go. I gained an appreciation very quickly for all of the other people in the band outside of the saxophones. It was kind of my little bubble. And you start to know other people, especially those in your year. But especially as drum major, when you are trying to be a member, if you will, of every crew, that's what the directors like to say. And you're trying to go from uniform crew to equipment crew to game day crew to banquet crew to all of these things. You start to appreciate every individual person. How many people are involved in leadership, how many people are doing a fantastic job, how many people could very easily fill the role that you're filling and just decided not to for whatever reason. And we have so many high school drum majors in the band, and so many people that would be fantastic drum majors at the CMB that decide that they want to invest their time in some other organization. That's great. So that behind the scenes and being present with, trying to be present with everyone, really gave me an appreciation for the incredible individuals in this group, and all that they do and give up to be a member. It was weird having, trying to figure out, or at least, get some indication of who we might be working with. Obviously a lot of it is external to us, it's what the band thinks, it's what the directors think, it's what, we've seen and heard, and it's a very complex and difficult process every year. But it was fun. It was really fun seeing, there was a lot of really great potential on display, especially out of a lot of underclassmen. And so being a part of, seeing the auditions of, some of the people that auditioned again and got it, for this coming year, and seeing, okay, you know what, this person is impressive, and maybe, this isn't the year for them, but I bet you later on down the road, they're going to be the people taking our shoes. So that was really fun. My third year, it was me, Steph Bell, Ray Corsand, and Kemper Steffi, and we all came in having never done it before. And so that dynamic was really, really beneficial for all of us, I think, to be able to just go through all this formation and understanding and trial by fire together. That helped us to grow cohesively. Obviously, personalities will differ group to group just because of the individuals in them. But that was a really notable thing about that group. In the second year, when Carissa and Kyle came in, we were all pretty good friends from the start, and we all knew each other from different things. I knew Carissa from BME, Steph knew Kyle from KK Psi, I knew Kyle, and Carissa knew Steph from the trombone section. And so that was really cool to replace two friends with two friends. It wasn't like anyone was coming in having never met anyone else before. And I hope that the second time around, it was still kind of an equal sharing of the load, even though two of us had done it for 2 years. And I think it was. I think people in this band just tend to do a really good job of that. But in terms of, how we work together and the common experience of just working really hard towards a goal, I think they were kind of similar in a lot of regards too. There were a lot of lessons learned that we got to learn from and not make again. Dr. Pease likes to say that it takes you until about October to figure out what you're doing as a drum major, and he's absolutely right. You don't think that it'll apply to you, and then it does. And so having reached that first October, and then having another season in which we've kind of just gotten an understanding of what we have to do and how to do it. It didn't make it less difficult. It made it less stressful. There were still a lot of difficult situations and things that had to be dealt with, and new scenarios that we didn't have that first year. But I think it equipped us with at least a confidence that we generally knew what we should be doing. There were a lot of logistical things that we didn't have to worry about. And so it kind of opened it up to let us just enjoy the ride a little bit more. So I think it's easy to get really caught up in the craziness of the game and of the game day experience and the logistics. But if you get to a point where you are pretty confident that things will be taken care of, you can really just step back and enjoy what's going on. From my angle on that story, I didn't know about it until halftime. So this was during pregame, and there's a picture circulating on Facebook of the exact moment. Someone snapped it from the stands where the sword is through her foot. I didn't know about it, which kind of attests to Aurelia as a person. That she high-stepped off the field, went up, so Kemper and I were on the ground for the first two quarters, and so she went up to her spot in the stands, and then without making a big deal out of the fact that there was a sword through her foot, got the attention of the necessary people, went to the ER. They told her not to walk again, and she came back and marched halftime. But I didn't know until we were on the field getting ready for halftime. And she showed up and casually mentioned that she had stabbed herself during pregame. So I think a lot of people see that as a very expertly handled situation. No one was alerted to the crisis, and very few people, I think, still know about it. But that's just because Aurelia is a champ and handled it with incredible grace. The first year that I was drum major, so my third year. And Dr. Pease is hyping up all of this tradition stuff as we're preparing, right? Saying, all of these things that you're going to plan, that you're going to do, well, maybe these will be things that we'll just keep doing because maybe they'll be that good. And you should strive for that excellence and hope that, future drum majors will just not want to change it because it's really great. And so in that mold, we were working on our pregame salute. And we took hours and hours to plan this thing. We went out to Albemarle High School because Carr's Hill was taken. We practiced on that field for hours. And we came up with a salute that we asked you to videotape. And so one night at band camp, we went out to Carr's Hill, we turned on the lights, and we ran this salute, this complex salute that we had painstakingly developed. We drew out everything, we wrote it out, every count by count. And at one point it involved Steph and Aurelia kind of slouching on the ground and me and Kemper jumping over them and trying to do a somersault timed so that it was together and we would all pop up with our swords at the same time. It never worked once. And I distinctly remember you filming it and being very polite about your reaction to it. And we showed it to Mr. Cook, who just lost it. We were very proud of ourselves, and he quickly shot us down for what was one of the more ridiculous things that we had ever done. So if our plan had gone through, Kemper and I would have been rolling on the ground every pregame. Nothing would have been coordinated. And I think Kemper actually threw out his shoulder during one of those sessions. So that was something that we tried to keep under wraps. I had done mace work in high school and thought that I was, the bomb, right? And so we got these swords, and last year we were trying to develop a salute in which we would throw them, spin them, whatever. Dr. Pease wanted something really dramatic. And so I'm standing on Carr's Hill during sectional rehearsal. Everyone is doing their own thing, and we're off in the corner trying to throw these swords and catch them, which I was rusty. It was a bad time. I was very overly confident, and I think in what I could have done, particularly because it was a sword and not a mace. But regardless, we're standing next to the color guard, and time again, I just hurled this sword in the air, and then kind of ducked as I figured that it was going to stab me in the face or whatever. I just kept trying because I knew that one time I would get it, and I didn't. It was 10, 15, 20 minutes of the color guard. I think slowly they just all started turning to watch the spectacle that was me trying to hurl the sword in the air and just fail to catch it every time. So that was fun. But the mace opens up a lot of opportunities for them to do that kind of thing. And it's a new element, a new tradition. That's exciting. The directors definitely like to instill some tough love right at the beginning of a drum major's entrance. And so in the first few days we had some incidents where we just didn't fulfill the responsibilities we had to fulfill. We didn't adequately perform our duties. One in particular, we were setting up the room for the first time where the full band would enter, and we would have the introduction to the season, and we accidentally let some people in before everything was ready. And it's something that directors really take pride in, is having everything ready to go, so that when people come in, it is, you come in and you are getting excited, and there's nothing to distract you. The slides are ready to go, the music's playing, and everybody walks in excited from the moment they're in the room. And we were not nearly at that point. So Dr. Pease and Dr. Cook came up to us and they're like, well, people are coming in, you can't stop them. You need to fix this. So Steph Bell and I ran up to the front and just threw on whatever music we could find from the band and started leading cheers and chants until everything was ready, which was a lot longer than we were expecting to do so. But it was good. It was a really good, all right, we need to be more detail oriented. We need to pay attention to a lot of things that we just didn't consider before. So, yeah, that was a tough love kind of moment, but it was really good for my formation, I think. In the years that I've been here, the band has really started to come into prominence. Not that it wasn't before, but so these were years 7 through 10 of the CMB's existence, and so we're kind of wrapping up the phase of establishing traditions. I came in as a drum major. We talked about, okay, well, if you make this pregame entrance and it's really good, well, maybe it's something that we'll keep. And that was really cool, the idea of establishing, these legacies that might go on for however many years. But I think that phase is starting to end from what I've seen. And people are starting to realize more fully what a good thing we have going here. I think that now that everything is solidified, the crowd is really noticeably getting into the performances, I think more so as the years have gone on for me. Or to the point where they're actually doing the visuals along with us in the stands and really getting into some of the things that we play. And I think that consequently, the leadership, but beyond the leadership, every member of the band is realizing the increasing heights that this group can reach. A group that is very uniquely blessed with directors that don't impose a crazy time burden, that has a bunch of just really motivated, driven individuals that genuinely want excellence for the group that they're a part of. And every year, that excellence, that bar has increased. I think you see really cool things happening now where they're going to Macy's in 2015, right? And it's genuinely becoming a hallmark of the football experience here, where it wasn't 11 years ago, right? And I just keep running into more and more people that I tell them that I'm in the band, their reaction is overwhelmingly positive. That's a really cool thing. It's a really cool thing to be a part of the beginnings of that, but I think it's also a really cool thing now for the band to continue to ride that out and to use that to propel themselves forward, and to demand more excellence of themselves, to really increase. There's really never an end to the quality of musicianship and the quality of drill that you can do, which is a really cool thing, and probably bad for a lot of the perfectionists that are members of this group. But it means that every year the sound gets stronger and the drill gets cleaner, and more recognition is being piled on the band. It's really cool.